live.
Hi, this is Aura Walker from the Aura Walker Hypnotherapy Show. Today it is January 15th. It is Martin Luther King Day. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how today is an important day every year to uphold Dr. King's message of standing up for our freedom of speech, our civil rights, and that it's important for each and every one of us to have an open and free voice that is for the good of all, for the whole, for the well-being of our society as a whole. And that means that it is how we use our voice to speak out about the welfare of everyone. And the thing is that when we look at countries that take care of the whole, they are prosperous on the whole because people are more relaxed and they're not as stressed out and they can function more properly. So I would just like to honor his memory today as a freedom fighter and as a light worker and a symbol of peace, prosperity, and all that is righteous and good in the universe. So I just want to say that right off the bat. And then I want to talk about mental health and hypnotherapy and the limitations of hypnotherapy and how hypnotherapy works. So hypnotherapy and hypnosis just differ a little bit because of the definition of the word. So hypnosis is a brainwave pattern that happens all day long and all night long to everybody who has a functional brain. And we go in and out of deeper and higher states of consciousness, but also activity, our brain activity. And when we're in a higher beta brain activity, we're functioning very rapidly and we're getting a lot done. And then we may skip lunch, or we may get very busy doing something and start kind of spacing out a little bit, or maybe we're making art or working out or going for a walk or meditating. Those are all states of slight hypnosis. And then if you lay down and kind of go into deeper relaxation, that's a deeper state of natural hypnosis. And so my job is to get people into that state in a manner that is relaxing to the body, mind, and the spirit, because we have such a hectic modern world that we live in. And then once I help people get into that state, I can really help them to do some exercises to move stories, stress, trauma, associations that no longer serve them out of the way and make room, literally like deleting spam mail, make room for new information that they want to drive towards. So it's a little bit tricky, but it is really about skill. And I am porting in for the first time today to Radio Buzz from my home office. I used to drive about 30 minutes to Santa Anita and do it in the Radio Buzz station, which was wonderful, and I love doing that. But today I am porting in from my home office. So you can see I have one of my degrees behind me. I have my poster of all the Buddhist deities, which are also metaphors. The deities are metaphors for experiences that we have in our life also, whether it's wisdom or prosperity that we choose to invite into our space, so to speak. And so speaking about mental health and hypnosis and the limitations of hypnosis, coming to you live from my home office here in Culver City, I want to talk about the limitations of alternative and holistic health, because it's important that we understand what the limitations are. Just like you go to the dentist to take care of your teeth, not to set a broken arm. You go to an osteopath, to take care of a back problem, but you might not go for an eye problem. So it's important to know who you're going to and why, and what the limitations are of what they can actually do within their practice. So there is a book called the DSM, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, and in the DSM are all of the mental health disorders that we know of to date, although I think there are probably some out there that are permutations that we're not aware of. And the thing is that you have to go to school for a very long time to master the DSM. It's a very, very thick book. And I did study it to a degree in graduate school, but I am not a psychiatrist or a psychologist. It is not the focus of my practice. The focus of my practice is simply working with the brainwave patterns of the brain and helping people to change negative associations into positive associations. Now, that is very effective and very rapid to affect positive change in people's lives. It can happen really quickly, much more rapidly than just straight talk therapy, okay? So the limitations of my practice is that when somebody comes to me, or if they ask me, which of course it happens because I'm all over the internet, somebody comes to me, say, with schizophrenia, which is a chemical disorder of the brain. It also may have a genetic predisposition, or something like bipolar disorder or severe depression, which also might be related to chemistry. And now they're finding that it might be related to a gene disorder that 40% of the population might have. I mean, that is a high percentage. And I'm constantly doing research, constantly. So this is something that's fairly new to the public and also to the medical field. And I feel like it's something that we are going to be burgeoning on for the future. In the future, they're going to be able to solve really severe mental illnesses and physical illnesses with reconstructing DNA and looking at DNA. Now, of course, that is the limitation to my practice because that's not what I do. But I'm bringing this up because of the high numbers of mental illness and people who may try to consult with me. I've had people call me and say, this is what I'm experiencing. And I say, well, you know, it's really important that you talk to a psychiatrist and maybe get a medical referral, get some further testing done. There are clinics now where they're doing brain scans. They can see exactly what's happening in your brain, or they can do saliva DNA tests and they can tell you exactly what's happening with your genomes and what you may be able to take to remedy that in a very simple manner, actually, because you know exactly what's going on with those particular genes. So there is a gene called the MTHFR gene, and 40% of the population has a disorder with this gene. And if you get a saliva test for that, so MTHFR, right? That gene, if you do a saliva test, DNA saliva test, you can find out if you have that gene. And then there are supplements that you can take, which one is methylfolate. That is the main one. So the what happens is the gene inhibits the body's ability to process folic acid, which is in all foods pretty much. And it prevents the brain from detoxing from heavy metals. And so the brain starts short-circuiting and wires literally do not get communication across. And this can be very frustrating because the people suffering with this, which is many, many people out there, can have many, many negative side effects. So the test is very simple. And just by taking these supplements and getting a blood test to see if I believe it's homocysteine levels are high because you're not processing folate well, then that's an indication that you may have this gene and that you could remedy it by simply taking methylfolate and glutathione. Also, I think it's L-glutathione, right? So you can Google this information. It's pretty much available on the web. And today, sadly, Dolores O'Riordan died. She was the lead singer of a 90s band called the Cranberries, and she was bipolar. I did not know that. She's a mom of 3 kids. And so we see, unfortunately, the spotlight on celebrities when it comes to past that we find out that a celebrity has died and that they suffer from a severe and persistent mental health disorder. And then everybody's like, oh, but what about when it's your aunt, your cousin, maybe a parent, a sibling? This is very common. Or a partner, a husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend. It is very, very, very misunderstood in our culture. You would think that today we would understand it better. And the numbers have reached astronomical proportions. 1 in 4 people suffers with a severe and persistent mental health disorder. So I'm talking about this today because of current events that are inspiring me to talk about it, and because it hits close to home myself. And I believe that it's in every family if the numbers are that high. If you have 10 people in the family, it's very likely that 2 of those people have a mental health disorder, whether it's some kind of minimal depression or severe depression. And when we think about depression, it can be like, oh, I feel sad today, I don't want to get out of bed. Or it can be something like disjointed thinking, irrational thinking, irrational behavior, angry outbursts, but it's where it's persistent, where it's lasting more than a week, and then it becomes a disorder. And just like somebody would have the flu, right? Well, that's an illness. Or they would have some kind of stomach ulcer, that's an illness. When we look at mental health disorders as an illness that you want to treat and want to treat it early and as soon as possible, then it remedies that situation and people can live much more productive lives. So again, these are some of the limitations of my practice because I don't have the tools and the availability to provide that depth of service for people. What I do is I help people to get out of ruts. I help them problem solve. I help them solve mysteries within themselves. I help them find out why they're stuck on a certain thing or why they can't move forward. So in many ways, I am like a detective. I solve problems with people. So people come to me and they say, you know, I had this experience in my childhood and I just can't get over it. Well, I help them to find out why they can't get over it and help them to move through it in a relatively short period of time. Whereas in talk therapy, somebody can lay on a couch for 20 years and repeat and complain about the same problem for 20 years, and they're not really getting anywhere with it because actually they're reprogramming themselves and driving that message deeper and deeper and deeper by talking about that message over and over and over again, rather than problem solving it and moving forward. So a lot of talk therapy therapists will not actually problem solve with clients because they want those clients to come back every week. And this is also true for other practitioners I have found. So even some hypnotherapists, they don't really want you to get better. And when I started my practice, I found that I had the ability to help people get better and move forward in a really short period of time. So that was something that I was inspired to figure out how to do when I was in grad school, when the head of my department said, if you have 30 minutes with somebody, how can you help them change their life so that they can experience positive, effective change? And that is what I trained to do. What I developed my practice around is short-term care with positive long-term results. And that is what I do. It's comprehensive. I charge a certain amount that I believe is worthy of my practice, and my services spanned over 23 years of knowledge and research. And I'm really dedicated and invested in my standard of ethics, of the level of service that I provide, and in helping people get better. I don't want people walking through my door and leaving and not feeling better. And if they don't, that probably means, yes, they do need some follow-up sessions, but not for 20 years. I want to see effective change in a relatively short period of time. And they should be leaving with incremental change, if not total change. And it really depends on the individual. Some people leave and their whole lives change within 12 to 24 hours. Some people come back for a few sessions and then they see more incremental change. But overall, I want to see them have positive, effective change from the session. And I truly believe, just like when you put a pebble into a pond, there's a ripple effect. You cannot come into my office and work on yourself and change something in your thinking, your behavior, your feeling, and not be changed when you leave. Okay? And so there are ways that we can do this with ourselves every single day. I wrote a paper in grad school called The Antidote to Pain. And what is the antidote to pain? It is actually to acknowledge the pain first and foremost, to acknowledge the pain, and then you can begin to change it. And that is the same with any kind of illness or any kind of discord, imbalance, is to acknowledge what it is that is in discord or out of balance, and then you can begin to change it. So this is the message that I have today on January 15th. And it's an exciting day because we are now porting me in from my home office. I wish you could call me Professor Walker, but I'm not quite there yet. I don't have a PhD. I have a master's degree. So you can just call me Aura or Aura Walker. And this is the Aura Walker Hypnotherapy Show. And it's live every day at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can also see my videos on YouTube. And if you have any questions about the show, or you would be interested in how we work at Radio Buzz, we are a live streaming independent radio station. And our producer, Chris, at Radio Buzz, is also very savvy in internet technology and development. And if you have any questions about getting on the show, being a sponsor, or having some help with your online presence, Chris can help you. And you can message him at chris@radiobuzzed, BUZZD.com. There's no E at the end of buzzed. So it's BUZZD.com. Again, you can catch my show 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, because we're out of California, and I do a show every week. So I'll catch you next time, and I hope that you enjoyed my show today. Cheers.